Welcome to Createful Art. Today I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful beach scene. We're going to go through each step very slowly so that we can accomplish this. In this painting we're going to be using acrylic paints, and I'm going to have a list of all the supplies that I use for this painting that you will be using as well in the lesson plan. We're going to be talking about all the different elements and principles of art that are going to go into this painting so that it is beautiful and gorgeous, and you'll understand why we do the things that we do. This lesson is going to be in real time, so it's going to be easier to follow along. Go ahead and pause though the video if you need to catch up. This lesson is going to take about an hour or an hour and a half to complete. So let's get started. So today we're going to dive into using our acrylics and make a beautiful beach scene, and all the supplies are going to be listed in the description below of what we are using. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create the colors that are going to be in our beach scene. So the first color is going to be a green type color, and we're going to have to make our green with the supplies that we have, but if you have a sap green, that's the color that we are going for. So you can just use sap green straight out of the tube, or you can mix with me. So I'm using my emerald green and my bronze yellow, and if you don't have bronze yellow, you can use yellow and black. You could also add a little bit of brown, that would work as well. So you can see on the color chart the emerald green and the bronze yellow are going to make a sap green. So I'm going to go ahead and mix those. See if I need to add any other color to change it up. I'm just using my brush. If you have a palette knife, you could use your palette knife, but since this is going to be such a small painting, I'm just going to use my brush. Okay, and that's the color I'm going for. So the next color that I want to put on my palette is a lemon yellow, and what I have is a cadmium yellow. Oh, how could I get a cadmium lemon yellow? If you have lemon yellow, you can use lemon yellow out of your tube. What I'm going to do is use my cadmium yellow and white. Now if I want to get this to be more of a lemon yellow, I'm just going to add a teeny tiny bit of green to it. Okay, and then I'm going to mix that up and just leave some of the color with the white and some of it without the white, and as you can see, that is a very light yellow. And if I were to add a little bit of green to it, you can see how that would kind of change it to the green side over here as a lemon, as a more lemony type color. See how that works? Okay, so that's one of my colors. Now I also want to take this green and I want to make a darker green, and I'm going to use the sap green, and I made that color with these two, and then I'm going to add it with orange. If you have an orange, it's just any type of orange will do. I have to make my orange, so I'm just going to use some red and yellow. And I really don't mind mixing all of these colors to get the colors I want. It helps me to have the right variation that I want, so it's okay. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and mix these colors and then add a little bit each until I get the color that I want. And that is actually the color that I want right there. See how that is a darker green than that? And then as I go along, if I want to add a little bit more of the orange, I can, or the yellow, so I'll leave that there. Okay. Now I would like to make a brown color. Now if you have a brown color, I would recommend burnt umber. I'm going to go ahead and have to make my burnt umber, so I'm going to use black. And my bronze yellow. Okay, as you can see, that's the color that it's going to make. And I want it to have just a little bit more of that red in it, so I'm going to add a little bit of my red here, just on the side. And see how that kind of browns it out to that color. Alright, so I'm going to leave both of those colors, that black and the bronze yellow, and then a little bit of the orange on that, so I can have a little more variation. And I can always add more red as I go. Okay, and then I have a main color orange. And as you can see, I have my Pabio paints that dried on here. I'm sorry about that. I don't have a clean palette, but I'll just go right over it and it won't matter. And if you're wondering what Pabio paints are, you can learn from our last lesson, and the link is in the description. So if you already have this, you can use a cadmium yellow medium, and that will get you the orange that you need for this painting. This beach scene hardly has any blue in it, so we're only going to mix a little bit of blue, and it's mostly going to have this color, this orange color. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to earthy out this orange color, because that is like wow neon. So I'm going to add some of that bronze yellow to it. And basically, if you add, black to a color or brown to a color, it'll make it more of an earthy color. Okay, see how that earthies that out? And then we'll add white to it. Got another white here when I run out. Anytime that you need to pause the video, feel free to pause the video so that you can catch up with me, because I honestly can't do this in a live way. So if I'm going too fast for you, just go ahead and pause the video and then do the step that I'm doing, and then continue on with the video. Okay, so that's an orange color. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow so that I can blend some yellow to it to get variations of this orange color as I paint. Okay, see how I could get different variations of that as I pull from that and that one and these colors. So that's how I'm going to leave that. Get the paint off of my brush. And then I'm just going to have a turquoise blue, and the turquoise blue will be about right here. So I'm going to use the phthalo green and the brilliant blue. And if you're wondering how to make one of these, there is a link in the description. So I got my brilliant blue. This is my phthalo green. And I'm going to need white. Okay, and then I'm just going to give myself a nice white right here because I'm going to be using white. Okay, and I think that's all I can get out of this one. Ooh, I got some more. Woohoo! And some more. Okay. Alright, go ahead and mix just a little bit of this with the white and just a little bit of the green with the white until I reach that color I want. A little more of the green. Okay, and that's really as light as I want it. Okay, and if we want to add more green as we go, we can. Okay, so your palette is ready and done with these colors. So we can move on to the next step. So this next step, we're going to be painting the sky, and that's all we're going to worry about. So what you're going to want to do is you want to grab your flat brush, a round brush, and a filbert brush. So with the round tip here. See if I have a better one. Okay, your filbert brush right here, and this is going to be perfect for your clouds. You want to learn how to paint clouds? There's a link in the description below. Okay. Alright, so we're going to be painting the clouds and the sunset and everything a yellow, orange with a tiny bit of blue. So what we're going to do first, so that our blue and our yellows don't mix and make green, we're going to put down a little bit of blue and then let that dry. So we're going to put a little blue right up here, and we might want to lighten that up just a little bit because we don't want this to be like way contrasted. Okay, add a little more green in that blue. And just remember, we will be going over this, so we'll just add a little bit in this guy right here to make it simple, and then a little bit over here. And notice how I'm going side to side with my strokes, and I'm not worrying about covering the entire canvas, and I did not add water to my paint. Okay. I'm letting some of the white of the canvas show through. Okay. That's all I'm going to do right there. So go ahead and wash out your brush. Rinse it on your, make it dry. Okay, so now we're going to work down here while this dries. And we're going to start painting in our orange clouds. So we want kind of a darker color. So I'm going to grab some of this darker right over here. You can see that. Okay, but I don't want it to be bright orange. Okay, so I'm grabbing that color that has a little bit of this golden yellow in it. This would be like if you were going to compare this color to a color straight from the bottle, it'd be like cadmium orange. Okay, so I'm going to draw my beach line. All right, so we're going to use the rule of thirds. So we're going to take our canvas, and we're going to break it up into thirds. Okay, and where that third mark is, right here, we're going to start adding our clouds right there. Okay, and I want you to just make a horizon line with the side of your brush all the way over. Don't worry about it being perfect at this point. Okay. Right. Now that you have your horizon line, make sure that you go side to side and you don't have any clumps in your paint. Okay, so now that you have your horizon line, what we're going to do is we're going to take our filbert brush and we're going to start putting in a cloud right here. So just grab that and take your brush and start making this rounded shape right here. Okay, and see how I'm working in circles? That's what you want to do, kind of work in circles. And you don't want this to end up being like little fingernail marks, okay? You just want to work in circles and color this in like this, okay? And start moving into the center. Each one of our skies is going to look different, so don't worry if yours looks different than mine. Okay, then you can take your wide brush and you can fill this in right here using kind of circular motions, and we'll go back over with our brush to kind of give it some more of the soft edges. So once you have your colors in, you can come in here and soften that, even adding a little bit of white right through here. Just grab some white from your palette and work it in. So this cloud could be completely flat color, it doesn't matter. I'm going to just add a little bit of changes in color right through here, but other than that it's pretty much a flat color. Okay. Alright, so we don't want to go much further because we're going to end up blending a lot of this into the yellow, and we'll have to go over the yellow with more of this color. But what we want to do with our yellow, now that this is dry, is we want to add our yellow into the sky over this. So grab your wide brush, make sure it's nice and dry, and make sure that this is dry. It shouldn't be sticky or wet. Okay, now you're going to take your brush and you're going to add a little bit of the creamy yellow color. Then you're going to start over here and you're going to have your brush kind of going this direction. See how that doesn't make orange? Okay, I mean, see how that doesn't make green when you go over that? They can't mix when they're dry. So you kind of have to decide how much of the yellow that you want. This is very extremely yellow, and I'm not really going for that look, so I'm going to add some orange to my yellow. Okay, so add some orange to your yellow and kind of bring in that element of orange in there. So you kind of want this mix of yellow and oranges as you go through this painting. Okay, so I'm starting over here on this side and I'm going to just bring it in like this. Okay, and I'm just kind of using this dry brush technique, grabbing more color coming in and using a dry brush technique. Okay, and you want to bring the yellow all down throughout here, and you will go over some of it. I want you to feel like you can be creative with my lessons, so don't feel like this painting needs to look exactly like mine, but if you're struggling, go ahead and follow along. So I'm placing down this yellow all the way down to this bottom right here. Okay, and then I'm going to take it up through the sky and cover up a lot of this blue. Because remember, we're only going to have a little bit of this blue showing. And as beautiful as it is, it's not the main color in our painting. So I'm toning down that orange because it's very, very dark. So I really want to like incorporate the yellow, the white, and the orange up here. Whoa. So the yellow is going to be the brightest throughout here because this is where the sun's going to be. So just kind of think about that and then come in here and really go over this blue. And you'll notice that I'm kind of going down and up in this motion. It's because I want my sky to kind of point to the sun a little bit, but it's not going to be like jagged point. It's just going to curve around like that and come down and then come back up on this side. Okay, so you'll notice that some of the blue is showing, but not a whole lot. It's not the focal point. Okay, so we're ready to come in and add some more yellow and some more oranges on top. So throughout here we're going to have the lightest colors. We're just going to come in here and brighten this up throughout here, the center. I'm just going from side to side. I've got white and I've got yellow together. Okay, then I'm just kind of blending the yellow with this cloud right here, going over it, making sure I come down and blend these out. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my orange and I'm going to start taking this and moving it. Now see if where I go over this yellow, it's going to look like a cloud, a dark cloud going over the sun shining. So I want to be strategic where I place this and just kind of have fun. And this is going to be the straight part of the cloud, you know, the underneath part of the cloud. And then we'll come in and we'll add with our filbert brush some of the roundness of the cloud. So I'm just going to go around this curve like this and then come out like that. gives it some fun little dimension here. Runs into this cloud right here in the back. Start a cloud right here. Comes down. Okay. And then most of this right here I want to be orange, so that it makes the sun look like it's right here. So just kind of come in and make like this light orange over the top. Okay, so you can now come in with your filbert and grab some of that orange and then start building some clouds by using the circular motion. Oh, good gracious. Now see how I kind of built up this cloud on top with the small part on the bottom? You can do that. You can move the clouds however you wish. Just kind of building up on these clouds. Okay, right over here, I'm going to make more of a white cloud, and I'm going to put some blue in it, some orange, but notice I'm not going to be washing my brush at all. I'm just going to let the colors that are from my brush throughout the painting be right there inside of my clouds, because clouds aren't necessarily white, just stark white. They're actually more of a mix of colors. So just notice that I don't clean my brush and I just allow those colors kind of mix and pull colors from everywhere. Okay, then I'm going to push some of that white up here, just a little bit of it to show some clouds. And then if anything is ever too much of a contrast, you can just come in here and take your brush and brush it out. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit of purple. Wait. I'm going to add some orange through here to kind of make it look like there's this rolling cloud right in here. A nice little gap. Add some of the yellow black back in here. Okay, it's always nice to just step back and look and see if things are looking the way that you want to. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of purple up here in these clouds, and then we'll be done with this. So what you're going to do is grab some of this light orange color, add a little bit of it with your blue, okay, and you'll notice you'll get a green. Add just a little bit of this dark brown over here, and add more of that blue. Add a little more of the red until you make this purple color. That was cobalt blue. Now if you find that your color isn't making a purple, which mine's not, you can go to your color chart here and just look and see it's very, very purplish blue. So you can add some of the quandrocone magenta. And sometimes it's because this paint right here is very much more of an orange. And so every time I'm mixing this color with this, it's adding yellow to my color. And that's just going to make it more green. And you can't fight with it because it's not a primary color. It's just not going to work out the way you want it to. So I've just learned sometimes you just have to pull a different color into there. Okay, so I have this purple. It's more like a purplish gray. And that's what I want. Make sure I have a nice lighter version to pull from. Okay, that's the color. And at first I thought we would see a little bit more of that color when we mixed, but it wasn't enough for me. So sorry I didn't mix this to begin with. And we're just going to come in here and put in some clouds. And these would be like the darker clouds that are going over the sky. So just kind of let that go in that circular motion. And I'm just using my brush to pull it, and coming back and grabbing some white to add a little more dimension to the clouds. Okay, and then I'm just going to briefly let some of that color show up in some of these clouds that are down here. Okay, so I'm going to use dry brush, so I want to take most of my color off of my brush and then just lightly go over it and blend it. So have some water on your brush, okay, and then add that over here on the white. Make sure it's light enough. That was pretty dark. And you're just gonna come in here and add that color in here to add that shadow that it needs to look like a cloud. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this and I'm going to make white right here. Going to add white to the elements over here. Okay, and I'm just going to step back and kind of see what my painting needs, what it doesn't need. And again, yours is going to look different than mine. So once you've looked back and checked out your sky, you're ready for the next step. And this step is going to be the water. So the first thing we're going to do is take some of this light lemon and we're going to make a line right here. So this would be the light shining off of the top of the water. Just want to make a nice horizon line right there. Okay, and then you're going to bring this down with the light and you're just going to make these U shapes. Okay, and some of the area will get covered a lot, some of it won't. But what's going to happen is we're going to go over this anyways, but some of these U shapes will show through. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing going over this, but for now what we're going to do is get our brush, and don't put water on it, just make a dry brush and it'll have some of that yellow in it. Now we want to have the most contrasted color, which would be this dark color right here, and we're going to use our filbert brush and we're going to come in here and we're going to make waves. So the further the back the wave is, the least amount of like structure it's going to have. It's just going to be like a line back here. Okay, so you're going to make just really rounded out lines that are almost complete, just lines basically. Okay, and if you find that you have some orange right here, you can just go in and grab more yellow and pull it down as you add yellow and the dark to contrast each other. Now leaving a little bit of the white is just going to add some look of shine and stuff, so I just leave it there. Okay. Contrast back there, it's going to be more, and in front, so if you see anything really dark like that, that's okay. It's just needs to make sure that there are most contrasts in the back. See, like that's too much contrast. So when that happens, you're just gonna let it dry and go over it with some yellow. It's no big deal. So you can just soften that. Okay. So now we're gonna start putting in our wave, and the water is actually going to look green and yellow. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in some of this green right back here. That's going to show a little bit more structure. So just add in like a bump here and a bump here. Those are going to be waves. And then it's going to go up and over, but we're not going to worry about that completely right now. Oh, I guess we could. No, we'll just put it in white. Okay. And then it's going to come through here, and this is going to be a nice wave right through here, so just make some shapes like this. Okay. And let it go a little bit above where you were painting your ocean. Okay, and then it's going to just continue all the way to the edge. I'm not worrying about it being jaggedy up here because there's going to be breaks through this wave. A wave is not a perfect line. It looks really funny when it is a perfect line. And I'm just using my green here and pulling it all the way to this edge. grab a little water so it fills in those holes. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make this a lot darker down here. So we're going to grab some of this dark color and pull that in to the bottom. Okay, and then you can have some of that dark color right through here, but this is mostly going to be a wave crashing. So just pull that in right there. Okay, then you're going to pull this dark from side to side down here. You can grab your fat brush and just pull it side to side. Grab your dark, and if you need to get some more black on here, you can, because it'll mix on your canvas anyways. It'll mix with that green. And then just kind of do that downward stroke. Okay, and then you're going to soften this coming down through here. It's going to soften with some white. Okay, so just let it soften as it pulls forward into just the soft water. Okay, and right now it just kind of looks like a blob, but watch how we cut into that with the white. And we just make some like curved round. I don't have enough dark in there right now, so let's add more dark. Okay, and just keep pulling. Okay, now I'm doing that swivel with my brush. Right, so that's just kind of the basics. Now what you're going to do before this even dries or anything, you are going to get your filbert brush here real quick and grab some of this yellow. It's creamy yellow. Okay, and this wave is see-through, so you're going to just make it really translucent with some water and just pull it down like this in a rounded way from the top. Okay, keep adding water, making it really wet and translucent, and going over some of these tops right here. Okay, and notice how I'm leaving some of that dark right there. It's because I'm going to put water and it's going to be more contrast and I want that. Okay, but right through here, not so much. Okay, now this is going to make a big difference. We're going to add, oop, that color dried up. We're going to add some big rocks right here. So I'm just going to grab the black to begin with. Now rocks aren't just blobs. They're jaggedy and you don't want to be perfect with them. You want to just kind of go up and be brave and then move them around that wave. Okay, and fill it in for now. Add a little black rock right here, and it's going to look kind of like a blob for right now, but we need to add it in. So there's going to be this other one, and it's going to come up into the sky to break that up because that's too much just straightness going on. And then I'm going to make a nice straight back here. Okay, and then shape it around, making it jaggedy. So when we add the light on top and the dimension in this rock, it's really going to look cool. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit right there because there was nothing there. Okay. The little rock right here. A little rock right here. This will all have some water. Just pull that in there. Okay. And if you want a rock right here, all this is water splashing. So you can just add some black through here and you'll go over it. But that'll make it look like there's rock right there. Okay. And then if you want to have balance or anything, you could put a rock right here. Okay, and that will pull this. This is big and heavy. You want to pull some of it over here. Let it lead into that. Okay, but we're not even done, so we don't have to worry about those finishing touches yet. Okay. Now we just want to make sure that up through here, right here on the edges of the thing, we have enough contrast. So there wasn't enough contrast right there. Okay, so now we're going to put in some of the foam. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the side of our brush, the very tip, and again we have to be random with this or it's going to look funny, and we're just going to pull. We want to make sure that this underneath is nice and dry, and we're just going to move this around, and we don't want it to be perfectly white. We want to have some of this gray green in there. Okay, so this is the foam. Just comes in here, makes these little shapes, these random shapes. And if you need to look up some pictures on the internet for what this would look like, go ahead, take a minute to pause and do that. Okay, and this foam is going to come in through here, but it's going to be flat, so it's going to move to the right here and end up being kind of more together. And then the foam continues down here, and that's that foamy look. So you want to come in here and just kind of give it those rounded points, like round point. Round point. There might not be enough contrast right through here yet, but you can really tell when you put it over the contrasted part. Okay, now you're probably not seeing it quite yet. I want you to add a little bit of the green to your white. Make it a nice gray. Okay. Now we're going to add some of this white coming in through here, okay? So we want to follow this edge with the white. Okay. And the most contrast will happen against, you know, see where that dark is? That's where it'll look the coolest. Okay, and then this right here, this, you're just gonna blotch it basically, and you can take a dry brush. A dry brush is really good for this. So a dry bristle brush, and you just come in here, you're gonna get really rough with it. Come over here. Be the best brush for this. Make sure you get some of the yellow into your wave, because it will bounce, the yellow will bounce off. Okay, then we're going to bring in so that white and just go down here. Okay. move around that rock. And over here, there's a lot of wave going on right here. Just kind of push it. And you'll notice that there's not enough contrast there, so it's not showing up very well. So just bring back in that contrast. And you can always go over it. Okay, so we went around this edge, and now this wave right here is collapsing. So we're going to kind of make like this diagonal look, but it's not going to be just a diagonal line. We're going to have it go up and down and all sorts of things. Okay, so don't make it just a line, it'll look really funny. So we'll go up, move it around. Okay. And then when you come up here, you want to leave some of this showing. So we'll come up here and this is splashing up. We'll go in there. Okay. Come up through here. Some of this showing up top, but you'll see less of it. And then fill it in using a blotch technique. Blotchy, blotchy. Okay. Then you'll want to follow. And sometimes I use my nice thin round brush for this. Following this edge, making it look nice and contrasted. See how that looks really nice and contrasted. Got a little bit of yellow in there. Looks like the light's bouncing off. Okay. All right. So with this little tiny brush, you can come in and kind of give it a little more texture around these places. You know, bring it up a little bit. See, I can make little splotches and have kind of control over it. Where I put those little spots. Come a little closer to this rock right here. That's what's good about these little tiny brushes, is you can come in here and make detail. Now this is definitely more of a detailed painting than I usually do. But this is something I think that most people like to make their paintings. I think this style is what I think a lot of people like to use for this type of painting, so that's why I'm showing you this way.
Okay, so you're going to make sure that this isn't too white through here, so you want to make sure you add some yellow elements in here. See how I'm adding the yellow to it? Because the yellow is going to be bouncing off of that wave. Okay, and some of the colors will pick up through it. Just make sure you have a little of the gray color in there, because this is mostly not white. This is mostly like a gray, yellow, a little maybe purple in there. So just make sure that you leave like the top edge is white and like the bottom edge is white, but you come in here and just kind of darken this middle area. And then that contrast with the bright white, this will make it look a little more realistic. It's amazing how much shadow is actually in a wave from the wave itself. Okay, and then when you come down here with your round brush, you can kind of smooth these out because down here is a little bit smoother. So I like to just use my light round brush and then come in here, kind of smooth out a little bit of these sections through here. And definitely not a straight line, but you know, come around and let it look like there's actually an edge here. Possible edge right through here. Okay, now when you come up on top, now this will look a little more like it's contrasted through here. I'm gonna look back, see what it looks like. Add a little bit more of the light through here. So add a little bit of that, more of that yellow color. Like the light's glowing on that side because the light's right here. And more light through here to get that lemon color. And these shapes right here are very similar, so I'm going to kind of change it a little bit so that one's not too close to that other. Okay. Now you're going to use kind of like a dry brush technique again. I like to use a flat brush for this. I'm going to grab in some of our lemon, okay, and we're going to be using this as like a liner. And we're going to come through here. Make sure we have enough paint on our brush when we do that. Okay. Come through here, and then we're going to make some downward looking things through here. Okay. And then throughout here, we're going to just add some really soft, so make sure you have this dimension through here, just like a glaze over it. I'm just kind of being random again. Okay, Now I still feel like we don't have enough contrast going on, so I'm going to add a little bit of the contrast and just bring it in here kind of like a glaze as well. Okay, so this is going to have some of the light shining off of it, and I'm just going to make up this really light blue. Okay, so there's light that's going to be bouncing off the water, right, off of these waves. So you just come in, make kind of a glaze again. Okay. Didn't glaze it enough. Then I'll bring in your dark and just go over that a little bit to kind of blend it. And then bring in that dark down because we need more contrast. So notice how I'm using it kind of rounded. Now this painting does take a while because it's got a lot of details in it. And you wouldn't think, oh wow, you know, like this is a hard painting, but it is. It's kind of one of those, you know, master type things that people usually do in a speed video, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Just don't get mad at me that it takes a little while. Okay, so yeah, I'm just bringing this contrast down now and using that round point up type thing. Okay, and see how that contrast just makes it look a little more real through here. Get some of this contrast back here a little bit more. I wanted to add these little tiny waves back here. They're very like yellow, just like waves that are kind of in the back here coming through. Okay, and then we're going to pull this all together by bringing in some of the orange, and then we'll finish our rock because that's kind of a detailed thing. So okay, so we're going to pull this all together and we're going to grab our orange here and white and our yellow, black yellow here that we created a while ago, and we're going to be mixing it with the green as we go. So this is very much a dry brush glaze type technique where we just kind of pull it in and we're going to go over it some more and pull it in and go over it, and that's what makes it look really realistic. Otherwise, if you just went over it one time, it wouldn't have the glaze effect. So we'll put this down where there's white. Okay, blend a little bit more white, and notice I'm not being like really particular at all, just being very casual with it and free-flowing. Okay, and then I'm going to pull some back here, and I want to use my filbert brush when I do that because I want it to be in little pieces. I want to make sure it's light. Okay, I want it to be in little pieces, and I don't want it just to be one color. I want it to be orange, and I want it to have the green, and I want it to have lots of different elements, and not too much. Don't do too much or it's just going to look really weird. So you just pull in some of this color into this space right through here, a little bit back here. Very much a glazing type technique. Okay, and then we want it to be different throughout here because that's where like the most of the light's going to be bouncing from the sky. So we want this to be like where the shine is the most. So just add a little bit of white to it, a little bit of yellow, and it'll make that look like this is where most of the shine is. And pull in that dark color of the orange through here so there's more contrast right through here. Okay, keep adding a little bit of white, but not, you don't want it to be white white. Okay, and then that lemon yellow throughout here, that shiny. Okay, now we're going to pull that green through there. So remember, this is very glazed. You want some white, you want some water on there, and you want to make sure it's very glazed over. So you're going to go from side to side, kind of glazing over it like this. Okay, adding that green element in there over the top. Okay, the more green will be back here, and then it gets where it's dispersing as you go. So I just kind of scrub it on there, a little more through here, and let that orange come through the background. Okay, and I can pull a little bit more of the dark through there. This dark color, and blend it in through there. And it's really not that dark. You see over here I have a lot of that white of the canvas showing, so I'm just gonna kind of go through that and fix that. Okay, pull this dark down a little bit. Make it a glaze with some water. Blend it. Okay. All right, now you're going to make some waves. To do that, you're going to have dark underneath and the white on top, so you have to have both contrasts. So you're just going to grab some green and grab a little bit of the black, put it on your brush like this, and remember that waves aren't just a line. So come over here, make sure you have enough water on your brush that it's going to make it an easy line. Come right here, make it really thin, and then kind of decide where you want your line to be. Your wave, it's going to come like that. Okay, and then you can have little things in between. Okay, and then you're going to pull off another line. So say this one is going to be different, and it's going to come this direction. Okay, and wrap around through here and end over in this rock. Okay. Now you're going to do another one. This is going to pull off from the side right here. Run into that one. And then we'll have, well, let's see. It'd look better if there was one coming right through here. Like that. And then we have this one coming out like that. And then this comes kind of like that. So you could just play with it, little waves. This is just the dark part, so makes little sense. Okay. All right. We'll let that dry because we have to add the white over it. And we're gonna finish up our rocks. So we wanna have a little bit of the brown in our rocks. So use your dry brush for this because it's gonna add some dimension. And take your brown and you're gonna go on this side where the light's gonna be shining on it. So just gonna add some brown in here. You're not gonna see a whole lot, you're just blotching, okay? This is just the very back of it, so just give a little bit here and a little bit there on this forward facing part. Okay, that's what's gonna make it look realistic. Okay, now you'll be amazed at how easy this is, but you wanna make sure that this black right here is filled in. If there's any spots that aren't filled, just fill it in. Okay, because we can go over it with white. All right. Okay, now there's going to be an orange glow because it's orange sky, orange clouds. So we're going to take some of this orange, and don't even worry about washing your brush, add a little white to it, and you're just going to make little blotches again, okay? Drag a little bit, blotch it, okay? Don't worry about details yet. Okay, we're gonna put a crack in there like that. Okay. And then anything that you don't like, you could just go over it with black and it gives it that glazed, you know, see I didn't like that. All right, come back through here, add a little bit of a shape here. Kind of just adding some of that orange in there. We'll bring that rock forward and give it some more dimensions, okay? So there's that. Now you want to add a different color because rocks aren't just one color. So you're going to come in and make like a gray color, right? So now you're just going to kind of dab it, be very jiggity jaggedy. You can come in with your other brush if it's not doing what you want. Add another little element. Don't add too much, just enough to make it look like a rock. If you feel like it doesn't have enough contrast between spots, you just add black back over. Okay, and add that gray. And then I always go back over it with black. This is always what I do. This makes it look realistic and kind of like a glaze and make little compartments of shadow. So I always do that to kind of shape my rock the way I want. Add that shadow on the bottom and go over anything that like looks like it's too much of a line. Okay, then you can go over the top of that with white. But before you do that, you have to let that dry. So you can come back down through your water, grab your skinny little brush, and we're going to add a little bit of our wave going over here. So I'm just going to add little bits of white and not worry about it being a complete line. Okay, and we're going on top of the black, or the dark color, I guess you'd say. Okay, and the bigger the wave, the more the white on the top. Okay, then it can disappear or whatever you want it to do. Then you do the same thing on this one. You want them to kind of have different widths so that they look more interesting to look at. So maybe this one's just barely going on right there. And then let's make this one kind of like a big one. Kind of crashing into that rock right there. So we'll probably have to add a little bit more of the dark element under that. Because we made it just a strip. Just come in. Add that shadow under there. Okay, and then you add the yellow on top. Make sure that's nice and clean, because it's going to shine on top of that. Just a little bit. Don't need a whole bunch. Okay, now that this is dry, we can add some of this water coming through here, and it's going to be really, really soft. And just kind of like, you know, flowy and that kind of thing. So come through here, make it go around that, and we'll have to add green to that as it comes down. Type of thing. And water will be coming over here. Okay, I like to use dry brush for this. And you just need a lot of brushes on hand. Some of this to make it look like it's splashy. You know? Soften it. Okay. And this is going to have a lot of white coming over it. Barely showing that rock. Feel those waves come in. Okay, and then anything that you feel is too dark, you just drag it down and soften it with your brush that has absolutely no paint on it. Just soften it. Come around this. I mean, the water will be splashing on this rock and just really like coming over it like crazy. So just let it do its thing. Okay, and then down here we're really going to soften this. Just add this white and then come in here with your dry brush, soften that out. Have some white, break this apart. And really soften this through here. Trying to decide what I want to do here. Bring that down a little bit so it kind of looks separated. I like this wave came splashing and hit it and kind of took it out. Right over that curve. Oop, dry brush. Okay, and then add a little more contrast because that's really I want to make sure I have enough contrast on these rocks. So sit back and kind of decide if these rocks have enough. Okay, soften this. Okay, so usually around these rocks right here, there's going to be a little lip of white. And I'm going crazy with my brushes here. This is how I work messy. Whoop. So I'm going to come in with this white, come around this rock, make sure it's all nice and dry. The whole thing.
Here's my finished painting. I hope you had fun. Thank you so much for creating with me. If you love this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so that you can have more art videos like this one. And we'll see you next time. Bye!